Beach FM, locals talking to locals.
Beach FM, great to welcome back the Kapiti representative on the Greater Wellington Regional Council, Penny Gaylor. Good morning.
Good morning, John.
Penny, we've just had Bernie Wanden, Mayor of the Horowhenua, on the radio, who's telling us that the mayors in the central area got together last week, actually in the Vin, to discuss the Three Waters proposal from central government. Is regional government part of that as well?
Yes, so certainly every council, all 78 councils on the whole of New Zealand, considering, debating, discussing, reflecting on this big potential change for water in New Zealand. So the Regional Council on our council papers today actually has this significant item, probably the most significant item of this council, and potentially the most significant, certainly not one of the top three most significant events for our council this triennium. The amalgamation or the reforms of water in New Zealand is substantial. It's, there's no council that doesn't do it. We are unique as a regional council because we have ownership in Wellington Water, which is with other owners include Horowhenua City, Wellington City, Hutt City, Upper Hutt City, and of course these days you've got South Wairarapa. So the Kapiti Coast is not in that mix, so they have their own discussions and determine what their destiny will be. At this stage, we all have to make a decision by the end of August.
Wow.
It's the 20th, so pretty soon.
Goodness.
Whether we sign up to an MOU. And the MOU, as I've kind of probably said to you before, sort of like buys you a ticket to the auction.
Sure.
Then you get a seat at the table. You get to be in the deeper discussions, and I would hope the discussions where you get to have significant input into the potential shape, and then you get to decide if you're in and out. In the meantime, as part of the auction, you actually get some monies gifted. You get gift baskets from the government. Am I doing some good analogies
You
here?
are. I'm enjoying it.
You get some gift baskets, and for us in the Wellington region, kind of close on, I gather about $30 million that can be carved up around our 8 TAs in our regional council for us to determine what are some, in the meantime, investments that we can do across our three waters. So, and that will be part of the next process. We put in a bid to say we would like that kind of gift basket to be allocated around our region like this. This is what we want to do with our gift basket, and this is how it will benefit our community. Meanwhile, in parallel, the government and legislators, those who kind of would potentially set up a new entity or entities, will be doing the policy work to kind of go, what is the framework here? Because you have to obviously you have to have structure about this sort of thing, and you kind of determine how big and how little they are, how many there are or how few there are. And what's in or out? We talk about Three Waters reform, and potentially the stormwater is not going to be in there because, gosh, that's something bigger than Ben-Hur, as anybody will tell you, on every street, virtually in every community in our country. So it's going to be a big year. It will actually be the early time frame is that this wouldn't then actually, if all done and dusted, if kept to the time frame as government would like to, it would be sort of about July come next election that they would just be kind of flicking the switch and going, boom, we go live. This is who now runs your water, and this is who now sends your bill. So that's the idea of, it's that big, it will take that long, and even I think, having been through smaller scale things in council for the last sort of decade, this is very big, and that's an ambitious time frame.
Having accepted the gift basket, are you then committed to be part of the second tranche of discussions?
Yes, you're essentially right. A seat at the table, seat at the poker table, but we're told at this point it isn't mandatory beyond that. If you're in the tent, doesn't mean it's absolutely
Right.
You're bolted in, and it shouldn't be, because as we say today, our councils and our communities own the infrastructure.
Yes.
Wellington Water is but another name for the councils you have in the other parts of our region. So councils own all this stuff. So there's the really curly stuff we'll get when you're kind of almost horse trading, I guess, is like, well, we have this much value in our asset. None of the sexy stuff above ground, like a cool pool or a cool library, the stuff that nobody sees and really cares about, until it's kind of bursting and broken. But also, what's the debt that every council might be carrying, regardless of whether it's a brand new thing or a really old thing.
Yep.
Councils have debt, or they have not kept up to date, and so they don't have debt, and that's really nice on their books, but it changes everything. So there's very complicated formulas around what are the values of things, and how it impacts on therefore the sort of what a council does going forward. Their ratings, their international ratings for then loans that they might get to go build a new pool or build a new public entertainment centre, is affected by the sheer value that they have on the books and the balance of debt.
And
so
some of that value is going to
disappear.
disappear. If it goes into some central or some amalgamation, some of that value is going to disappear. And for an organisation such as the Kapiti Coast District Council, they simply can't afford for that value to disappear, because that's what they're borrowing on. And of course, they've resisted going into the Wellington Regional Scheme. You've been a Kapiti councillor. What do you think the outcome will be with the KCDC in what obviously are very important, far-ranging and discussions of such importance they should not be ignored?
Yes. I guess I'm picking up that everybody's going to say, well, be in the tent for the discussions, because the gift basket's pretty cool, and if you're not required to go beyond there, so, it's sort of like a kind of a, well, why wouldn't you? And then the really curly stuff will happen, because then people will go, well, what does this really mean? Because actually we haven't had a lot of time to think about this. We haven't.
We have
they
not.
know that, but everybody's had as little time to think about it. And it's not until you actually really get into the detail that you can make a value judgment, an evidence-based decision. It's like when we put in the investment we did in this last decade into our water infrastructure in the Kapiti Coast. There was a wealth of evidence of what things meant and what we were comparing, if we did this approach, if we went down this avenue, what it would cost in the short term, what it would cost in the long term, what it would save in the short term versus what it would save in the long term. So all that sort of stuff, and that's why I say it's actually a really short time frame if you're looking to another year and a half to gather all that for, like I say, 78 councils around the country, like every town, all the infrastructure we have. We all have a lot of information already about what is the value on our books of all this infrastructure. But then it's like, well, what does it mean if, like I say, if you're kind of then passing overall the value of all their assets? Is the government going to just buy it, dollar for dollar, or gosh, so none of that has been kind of aired at this point.
Big stuff. So gift baskets all round. People get involved in the discussions, and those discussions, I suspect, are going to be quite heavy.
Yes, and because as I know, in the Kapiti Coast, it's a topic to get people engaged on.
Oh yes.
But it's also, and the same for everyone, for everywhere. The issue of public versus private ownership, things going off into private ownership, which none of us like, is the absolute bottom line. So, we've already raised that at a workshop where we had a month ago in Wellington with all the councils from our region talking to the Department of Internal Affairs and, saying, that will be our game changer, bottom line, not even on the table. Don't even put it on the table.
Right.
So that was really heard loud and clear, and I'm absolutely sure that will be for every council around the country, is that you don't even put that on the table, and it is absolutely written in stone of it is not going there. But, and when people put that one up as the curly one or the challenging one not to do something, I always say to them, like, and who on earth buy it?
That's right.
Because you are buying the oldest dunger, because when you might go, oh, we could buy carpets, and you go, there's some new stuff we put in, but that's only a very little bit for that new suburb and maybe your town centre. Then most of it is all to different degrees, aged.
That's
then
right.
you've got, look at Wellington City.
Yeah, I was going to say, who would want to buy the Wellington City one? Goodness me.
I shouldn't worry about the Kapiti Coast example. Let's always go directly to that Wellington City example. And who would buy that dunger? It's just a mess, and you wouldn't even pay $1 for it, because you just start spending. Yeah, and you could never get a loan against it, could you? Get real. So, private ownership is never going to be on the table, but we have to absolutely make sure it's never going to be on the table by writing it in stone.
Excellent. I'm with you. Penny, this has been fascinating, and I'm sure that the discussions are going to be interesting today, and it's really what happens from here on in. And just particularly for a place such as KCDC, which, as you says, certainly water has been top of mind, and we've had many animated discussions over the years. So we'll have to await further progress. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Lovely, thank you.
106.3 Beach FM.